hill country grows. Elkanah lived where the mountain wind blows. He had 2 wives, Peninnah and her pride, but Hannah walked with a sorrow inside. Year after year to Shiloh they'd go to offer their prayers while the altar would glow. Peninnah would mock her, "Where is your son?" Hannah would weep till the daylight was done. She stood at the temple, her lips moving fast, praying for a future to heal from the past. Old Eli the priest watched her there in the shade, thinking she'd drunk from the wine that was made. "No, my Lord," she said, with a soul-heavy sigh, "I'm pouring my heart to the Most High on high." Eli said, "Go now in peace, find your rest. May the God of our fathers grant your request." The seasons turned round and the promise came true. A baby was born, a life small and new. She named him Samuel, because I have asked. In the light of the Lord his young spirit basked. When he was weaned, she returned to the gate to give back to God what was holy and great. "I lent him to Yahweh as long as he lives, the song of a mother who faithfully gives." Now Eli's own sons were a wicked breed, taking the meat with a spirit of greed. Hophni and Phinehas, they didn't know God, defiling the ground where the worshipers trod. But little Samuel grew tall in the light, wearing his linen, a heart that was bright. Each year his mother would bring him a coat, while the sins of the priests were a curse in the throat. The word of the Lord in those days was rare. Visions were silent and few people cared. But one night in darkness as Samuel slept, a voice called his name while the tabernacle kept. He ran to old Eli, "My Lord, here I am." Eli said, "Go back, I called not my lamb." 3 times the voice rang through the quiet of night, till Eli perceived it was God's holy light. "Speak, Lord," said the boy, "for your servant is near." The message he heard was a burden of fear. Judgment was coming for Eli's own house, for the sins of his sons that he failed to arouse. The Philistines gathered, the battle was joined. The glory of Israel was nearly purloined. They brought out the ark, thinking gold was a shield, but 30,000 fell dead on the field. The ark was captured, the sons were both slain. The news reached the city like fire and rain. Eli fell backward and breathed his last breath, and the daughter-in-law named her child after death. "Ichabod," she cried, "for the glory is gone." But the ark in the dark was just waiting for dawn. In the temple of Dagon the idol fell low. God's hand was heavy, a crushing blow. The Philistines trembled, they sent it away on a cart with 2 cows that didn't go astray. It came back to Israel, to hills green and wide, where the people repented and turned from their pride. But as Samuel grew old, the people did cry, "Give us a king like the nations nearby." Samuel was grieved, but the Lord said, "It's true, they haven't rejected the prophet, but you." Then came a young man, tall and quite fair, searching for donkeys with dust in his hair. Saul was his name, from the tribe of the small. Little did he know he'd be ruler of all. Samuel poured oil on the head of the youth, a king for the people in power and truth. But Saul was a man who let fear lead the way, choosing his will over what God would say. He offered the sacrifice, wouldn't wait long. thinking his kingdom was steady and strong. Samuel rebuked him, obedience is best, more than the fat of the rams in the chest. Then came the command to strike Amalek down, but Saul kept the king and the spoils of the town. The Spirit has left you, the prophet declared. The kingdom was torn and no mercy was spared. Go to the house of Jesse, find a new king, not the tall brothers or the power they bring. God looks at the heart, not the stature or face. In a young shepherd boy he found a new grace. David the youngest with a sling and a stone faced the giant Goliath standing alone. You come with a sword, but I come in his name. One stone in the forehead and into the game. Saul grew so jealous he hunted the lad. The music of David was all that he had. Jonathan loved him, a brotherly bond, while Saul in his madness grew dark and despond. David in caves in the wilderness sand spared the king's life with a merciful hand. I won't touch the Lord's own anointed, he said, as he cut off a skirt while the king was in bed. The end was approaching on Gilboa's height. Saul saw the shadows and gave up the fight. The prophet was dead and the spirits were cold. The story of Saul was a tragedy told. So David lamented for the crown and the shield, for the mighty who fell on the crimson-stained field. From the heights of the hill to the valley of tears,